A few hours after impact, Earth stops being familiar. The air becomes falling stone, still glowing from space. Forests flatten like paper. Seas boil at the edges. Then the fire ends, and a silence arrives. The planet hasn't heard in hundreds of millions of years. And in that silence, life makes its smallest, quietest decision to endure the end that isn't absolute. When we imagine mass extinctions, we picture a clean ending, a single moment that wipes the slate. But extinction isn't a full stop. It's a cliff, followed by a long, brutal landing. This is the story of that landing. The first days, the first year, and the first green breath in a world that burned. 1 hour after impact, Earth becomes a furnace. Within hours, the sky is no longer blue. It becomes a ceiling of ash and metal. Heated debris re-entering like a planet-wide meteor shower. Shockwaves circle the world. Forests collapse. The ocean surface lifts into vapor. The air fills with raining stones. Each one a tiny furnace falling from orbit. Temperatures spike beyond imagination. The open world becomes lethal. Nothing large survives outside shelter. Firestorms spread continent to continent. For days, land turns into one continuous flame. Even the oceans begin to steam. Then the burning spends itself, and silence follows. A silence so complete it feels unnatural. 2. The silence, a planet with no voices. On land, the air tastes like sulfur and burnt carbon. In forests that remain, nothing moves. No calls, no rustling, no wings, only smoke, embers, and toxic rain tapping on dead leaves. Soot from billions of trees climbs high into the atmosphere, forming a global veil. Daylight disappears, not like night, like absence. Scientists call it an impact winter, a nuclear winter effect, where the sun still exists, but Earth can't access it. Photosynthesis stops. Plants fail. Food chains break. And the age that lasted more than 160 million years ends. But here's the twist. Life doesn't vanish completely. It retreats. 3. The first year permanent dusk. The first year isn't dramatic anymore. It's relentless. Cold that seeps into the ground and refuses to leave. Mornings that look like evenings. Evenings that never change because the sky is already gray. Time becomes hard to measure. You lose the sun. You lose seasons. You lose the rhythm the planet used to run on. The air feels heavy. Wet ash in every breath. Rain is constant. And when it falls, it hurts. Water turns corrosive. Pools form in low places, murky still, releasing a smell like rotten eggs. Nothing new grows. What survived the flames stands in place, rotting slowly. Bark peels. Branches snap. Fine black powder coats everything. And the strangest part is the soundscape. It's too quiet. No birds. No insects. No living movement in the understory. Just occasional cracks. A dead tree giving up. And the soft patter of toxic rain. The food chain isn't a chain anymore. It's fragments. 4. The survivors small, low, hidden. The animals that make it are not the strongest. They are the ones who can disappear. Most mammals left alive are tiny fist-sized burrowers. Night survivors in a world that never fully brightens. They dig deeper than before, line tunnels with whatever they salvaged. They eat anything, beetle larvae, roots that taste like dirt, fungus on bark. One meal every few days, if luck allows. Above them, a few birds, the last living dinosaurs, scratch for seeds buried under ash. In swamps, crocodilians wait, bodies barely moving, hearts slowed to near stillness. And in the deep ocean, far from surface chaos, microbial life thrives around hydrothermal vents, feeding on minerals instead of sunlight. They don't know they're survivors, but they are. They are the thin line between collapse and continuation. 5. The ocean goes quiet and then hides life in the depths. The oceans suffer in their own silence. With little light, plankton fails at the surface. The base of the marine food web weakens. Predators vanish one by one. The sea becomes still, like the land. But even here, life finds loopholes. Tiny crustaceans persist near the warmer deep. Some fish retreat to stable, darker layers. The deep sea becomes refuge, a shelter from a broken climate above. And while the world seems dead, under the ash, under ice, under mud, there is movement. Spores waiting, roots pushing, microbes reclaiming the surface grain by grain. Life doesn't fight like a hero. It hides like a survivor. 6. The turn when light leaks back in. Months pass. Then more. The fires are long gone. The sky remains gray, but it begins to thin. A pale light starts to leak through. Weak, cold, but real. Sunlight touches the surface again. Ice responds, cracking, shifting, melting. The air changes. Not clean, but breathable. For the first time since impact, the planet exhales. The trees that remain still look dead. Brittle branches, roots rotting under soot. The soil has forgotten how to feed them. And then something new arrives. Not trees, not flowers. The first conquerors of ruined worlds. 7. The fern spike, the planet's first green answer. Ferns appear, at first scattered, then spreading. Low, stubborn green across black ground. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't need stability. Ferns are opportunists. Their spores ride whatever wind survives, settling wherever ash thins enough for roots to grip. This surge is so consistent that scientists see it in the fossil record, a signature of recovery called the fern spike. Within years, valleys turn green again. The rain still tastes sours, but it's no longer instantly deadly. The world has moved from extinction to survival. 8. The small age when little creatures inherit the earth. Now, the survivors begin to expand. Tiny mammals venture above ground more often. They dig through ash for insects and roots. Their eyes remain wide and dark, built for low light. They live fast, sleep light, stay close to burrows. Birds hop through the ruined landscape, pecking seeds, chasing insects. They don't look like rulers, but they carry an impossible lineage, descendants of giants that once dominated the world. And the birds that survive best are not the flyers. They're ground dwellers, foragers, runners. In a world without trees, flight offers no advantage. The sky belongs to no one now. 9. The ocean restarts from a single flicker of green. As dusk continues to settle, the ocean changes first, because recovery begins with light. When sunlight finally reaches the surface waters again, even faintly, plankton returns, not in waves, in whispers. Tiny flashes of green, barely visible, but they are the base of everything to come. Once plankton stabilizes, food webs rebuild upward, slowly, then faster. Not fast by human standards. Fast by a planet's. 10. The acceleration recovery on geologic speed. With the dominant giants gone, ecosystems have space. Within roughly 100,000 years, mammal diversity expands dramatically. Within a few 100,000, mammals become more varied than before. Then something even more important happens. Mammals grow. During the immediate aftermath, the average survivor is small. Rat-sized because nothing larger can endure starvation, cold, and collapse. But once the world opens, size returns. Within less than 1 million years, an instant in deep time, mammals scale up from tiny survivors to wolf-sized bodies. And they don't stop. Given enough time, the line that survived the bottleneck will eventually produce animals larger than any dinosaur ever was. Elephants, whales. But that chapter takes millions of years. For now, the world belongs to endurance. Not power, not dominance. Patience. Closing the planet doesn't recover. It rebuilds different. After mass extinction, Earth doesn't reset. Too much is missing. What follows isn't recovery. It's rearrangement. A simpler world assembled from whatever held on. A new era built not from what was lost, but from what refused to die. And that is the quiet truth of Earth's history. Every ending is real, but it is almost never absolute.